Was the race I'm about to talk about, was it the race of the century? Alright, I'm going to provide my take on the Shaine Casas 200 meter individual medley, time of 1 minute 56.35 seconds on 27 July 2023. I am Tanis Coralee Leonhardi. This is my YouTube channel, Tanis Leonhardi. And this is one of my athletic performance contextualizations, where I take a race and I across different sports and performance arenas, so to speak. So I've done a number for track and field, be it, you know, a Team Poland relay team, Norway middle distance current runner, or Australian middle distance runner of the past. I've done swimming. I've done, thinking of ones where I have multiple, I've done soccer. I've also called football. I've done music videos. And so this is one of those, and it's a little bit different. It is a dissection, but it's also sometimes it's less dissection and more contextualization. And contextualization can just be a dissection, but this one is a little bit different than just a dissection, though it may have a little bit of that in it. And so I'm going to talk through the Shaine Casas 200 meter individual medley race at the 2023 World Aquatics Championships in Fukuoka, Japan. Time of 1 minute and 56.35 seconds in the final on Thursday, 27 July 2023. With his time, he achieved 4th place. I provide my take / perspective on his performance and contextualize it in terms of, and I've written this and I've highlighted the following text, like what I'll do in pink, because it's a mouthful, and it's something that I have invoked in trying to understand, but maybe like also like explain kind of what happened. And so contextualize in terms of, this is the pink text, performance metrics I have experienced in science. So that's the intro. I have done a breakdown of how I used to swim the 100-yard individual medley, and this is, I'm kind of addressing this here because Shaine Casas is good at backstroke and breaststroke, and I was good at backstroke and breaststroke in my individual medley. So he stylistically is a little bit similar to me. Proper chronology, because I swam that, you know, 1999 to 2010. Well, not, okay, the 100-yard individual medley came later, but like, you can think of like, I stopped competing and swimming in 2010 kind of thing. So, and his swim was 2023. So, I'm not saying he gets it for me. I'm just, in terms of understanding, there's like, I'm doing introspection to understand this. And I have done actually athletic performance contextualization on that before. And so what happened in this race was he's good at butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle. And if there was one stroke that I would say is kind of like a weak link compared to others, it might be freestyle, which is actually kind of similar to me. So he was kind of out in front, and then I would say, so his time of 1 minute and 56.35 seconds is not his personal best time. His personal best time is 1 minute and 55.25 seconds per my last checking kind of thing, which if he had swam this in this race, he would have gotten the silver medal. And so how I would phrase and kind of like watching this race was, so the baby dissection, he was out in butterfly. In backstroke, I would not say he got into it with the other American in the race. What I would say is, per my own racing experience, sometimes there are people who like to kind of, the teammate is not necessarily so good at backstroke, and Shaine Casas is good at backstroke and won his first medal at a World Championships in the 200 meter backstroke. He's a good backstroker. And so this teammate kind of like went after Shaine Casas in terms of like reputation. Like, so they really performed fast on the backstroke where they're not necessarily usually a good backstroker, and it doesn't make them a good backstroker. So if I were to venture a guess as to what happened in this race, it was this other American kind of went after Shaine, and Shaine, while Shaine did not get into it with the other person, he might have let it get to him. So his time was not so fast. And how I would phrase that per my own racing experience in the individual medley at shorter distances is it's like, essentially it's like on a turn or something, especially since their lane assignments were pretty far apart, like 3 and 8, so they're kind of across the pool. So like if that did happen, it would be like something, per my experience, so I don't know, I wasn't the swimmer, but like something that's seen off the turn, and the look and like the actual act of seeing can kind of like jostle a person. And if a person gets into it, a person can slow down a lot. If they just see the person and like they are like, okay, this person's trying to get into it with me, speaking from my experience, like, so I guess that'd be like third person, but like, okay, this person's trying to get into it with me, maintain, right? So then I don't go a personal best time, but I also don't add 2 seconds to my personal best time. So he did well, and he was fast, and he was not even 0.3 of a second behind the bronze medalist, Shaine. However, I would say, per my own racing experience, if it's applicable to this situation, it's a case of a teammate kind of attacking Shaine on the backstroke portion to increase the value of their own reputation at the detriment of Shaine's reputation, and Shaine moderating himself but also seeing. And so what I have learned in those races, per my own racing experience, is to just not look. Which sounds kind of stupid, and it's really hard to do in a sport like swimming, because it's like then you got to stay like looking down, versus like the natural thing on some turns is to kind of like actually like turn ahead, right? So you like see the person or see the rest of the field even if you don't want to. Like it's just, you kind of think like it's not, you can't help yourself, it's just like it's there, it's literally in the line of you kind of thing. And so then I've tried that, and sometimes that doesn't work and that turns a little off or whatever, but sometimes it works and I go a personal best time. So that would be a contextualization there in terms of my own. Okay, there we go. There's so the first contextualization in terms of my own individual medley racing experience. Yeah, I would guess that is what happened. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad. However, there was a dynamic there that I have seen play out in international competition between Americans before. Like one person will have a really good reputation in a stroke, so the other person will take and swim that stroke that they're not so good at really fast within the individual medley to make it look like they're better at that stroke than they actually are. Okay, that is how Shaine Casas kind of got attacked in this one. From a teammate, which is kind of, I'm really not a fan of stuff like that. Fortunately, I'm more like Shaine Casas in this one, or Shaine Casas is more like me in this one. And I would get attacked in backstroke, actually, because I was a good backstroker and a good breaststroker, but I usually competed in breaststroke, and people, if they wanted to go after me in breaststroke, that didn't go so well for them. So it tended to be backstroke. So interestingly enough, that he also shares with me, reminds me, maybe I should read this tonight. Reputation risk. Next book notes video. That is not a tangent. It comes to mind with stuff like this, is like, how do you even fight that? If you're Shaine Casas, and I'm like thinking all myself, how the hell do you even fight that, right? This guy's trying to like boost their own reputation, but it could hurt Shaine because Shaine is a backstroker. Like, how do you strategize? Which actually gets me to the performance metrics that I've experienced in science. How does one strategize? So thinking of watching this race, I'm like, if I were Shaine Casas, I would push on backstroke and breaststroke. I know I've said that before. Right, that's how I ended up swimming my individual medley myself. But it took time to get there, and it required adjustment. And this is actually very much, I would say, since I've stopped competing in 2010. You know, I won an international prize in mineralogy. I have a degree in geology and geophysics. I went to graduate school for geophysics, so I had a #1 program in the world kind of thing for geophysics. So I was like, comparisons can be drawn there to world championships if I'm #1, right? Or at a #1 for what I do. Not read do. Strategy and science is required. It's not quite the same as something like swimming, because our exams, for example, would be, you know, the shortest is like a 15-minute quiz, but some exams are 3.5 or 4 hours. So it's very different than a 2-minute race. And that would be slow. But in science, I would say one of the things I found to be a commonality, no matter what the performance, be it oral presentation, verbal exam, written exam, practical exam would be like actually physically doing or identifying things in geology. One of the commonalities is to find the things, I would say, backstroke and breaststroke, because he's good and superior to many in an individual medley race and those things. And essentially, it's like in science, the commonality I found was lay out everything I'm going to do and do that and hit that hard, and that's all I'm going to study. And if anything hits me outside of what I studied, hello, welcome back! How am I on time? If anything hits me outside of what I studied, it's not my fault because I did not study it. And I can also assign no blame to anybody. It's right, it was not on my list. So in that sense, at the time I came up with a list or topics or whatever I'm going to study, I took responsibility for such and such is not on my list. So if it does not come, if it does come up, oh well, I can give myself that grace because it's not something I worked on. So I would say, per my perspective, it worked. I was able to move forward after exams. I, did really great on one quantum mechanics exam in physics, the physics department, which wasn't even required, right? I was able to expand beyond the scope of geology and physics and do classes up in physics, in mathematics and stuff, and be like top 3 for an exam and stuff. And a discipline I did not get my major in, right? So, which, like people might, you're bragging. I'm not bragging. It's an approach that applies here, I would guess. Oh, Shaine could give it his all, whatever that means for the backstroke and the breaststroke. And if somebody challenges him, he still gave it his all. And it gives him an ability to, in a position where one's attacked in a race, it allows for adaptation because that's the push packet, if that makes any sense. So if he's attacked in backstroke and that's one of his push areas, then adaptation's already factored into that, versus kind of being left, where do I address this attack in this race because I need to speed up because I just slowed down. So I don't know if that makes sense. To me, it's crystal clear. Maybe to Shaine Casas it is. If not, I would love to talk to you, Shaine Casas. You're a very attractive man. But yeah. So that's my take / perspective, is helpful or not, on the Shaine Casas 200 individual medley at the 2022 World Aquatics Championships in Fukuoka, Japan. And in the final, 1 minute 56.35 seconds. And I contextualized it in terms of my own swimming competition experience / racing, and performance metrics I have experienced in science. Happy day and time of viewing to you whenever you're viewing this. Happy place of viewing this wherever you're viewing this from. I'm Tanis Coralee Leonhardi. It's my YouTube channel, Tanis.